I will try to address probably the most impossible, not really impossible question, I think, which is the meaning of life, which was something that was really bothering me quite a lot. Because we see all of this, so we see this multitude of things and this huge universe that we cannot explain. We, like scientists at the beginning, we try to get into it and try to dissect things and go around and try to make sense and put things together and try to analyze and rationalize. That was me at the beginning. You know, even when I was doing certain practices, especially more related to the Buddhist path, I was trying to understand myself a bit more, and try, why do I do this, and why life is so painful, why things don't go the way I want. It's actually something that can keep us occupied all our lives and put ourselves in that kind of blaming attitude of things, because things keep on changing and it is rare that they go exactly in the way we want. And the need for an explanation, it's actually the problem causing the discomfort. Because when we come to a point of just saying that things cannot be understood on that level of multitude, then our intellect cannot include all those things. You know, we might come to an end point in that sense, and be a little bit more peaceful. In my life was something very bothering, the fact of trying to make a meaning out of this, and my purpose and my role into this, and you know, or living all the personal conflict. And I think that right there is the issue. It's the movement, the psychological movement, the thoughts creating a need that constantly put us in that situation of not satisfying that need. I personally don't think there is a meaning out of this, rather than trying to become spontaneous, and not to become spontaneous because it seems like there should be an effort to become spontaneous. Naturally, we can be spontaneous. It's just that our conditionings, family, society, work, and all the external factors and our involvement, internal thinking involved with that, create a friction, create a problem, create a suffering, and then we actually end up looking for a solution. That's why we become spiritual, because we want to fix our existence here. So the problem is actually here, it's not out there, it's just the way we perceive things, which doesn't mean that life doesn't have difficulties. Never things go in the way that you want. It's more about making sense out of things and see how you can be more constructive about them. But the pressing question of the meaning of life can be something quite consuming, in my opinion, especially because it's a tendency of the intellect of wanting to dig things into intellectual aspect. We see this in the spiritual paths, we see it in qigong, that ultimately this kind of approach and bring us into more ideas, even about something that cannot be touched intellectually. But what is it, this thing that cannot be touched intellectually? It's something that belongs to all of us, and even our life itself cannot be explained. So if we will drop the intellect, we will be already there to some extent. We will be naturally living the material world, the multitude aspects of life, with the sense of feeling ourselves. Feeling ourselves means also being able to perceive the multitude of our thoughts, the multitude of our bones, but as a multitude, so as something which is not ultimately us. It's a perception that constantly changes. And the need of making sense out of that constant change can create lots of suffering and can create lots of misleading and long-lasting disturbing emotions, because when things don't go the way we want, we might get angry with somebody, and for 10 years when I see that person or I think about that person that did something wrong 10 years ago, the feeling of sorrow and angry comes up and actually is consuming my life, my ecosystem. in my personal life I discovered that the way, in my case, was to improve myself and create a little distance from the perceptions, from this multitude, from life, while you are in it, because we are alive. We cannot discard the fact that we have a body, that we have to run a business, we have to teach online, whatever it is, to survive, to do these videos, you know. It's part of the thing. But ultimately all these things will vanish. So if we will consider even the terrible aspect of death more in our life, things will come more in the right perspective. In their temporary nature, nothing will be a big deal. But many people are afraid of that aspect of life. It's an aspect of life, it's not something else. It's an aspect of life. Because all they know it's the multitude. And all that they try to do is to understand how to make a business, to work with this multitude and to build and get something out of these things. But that thing never is gonna end. And our need for something more, which some people might look at in expanding their business, some people might look at in meeting God, or going to church, or drinking beer more and more, or having sex, will never finish. It's hard to accept that there is no meaning. It's hard to discard the idea of even of a creator, or even accepting it or denying it. It's hard to be accepting the two opposites together, saying, what's the relevance of it? Thinking that something created this or something didn't create this? Why not investigating ourselves so that we can try to handle this process of life in a better way? So the problem starts in ourselves, this is my opinion. And from a wrong perspective of who we are, and from the identification with the temporary experiences of our body, mind, and reality, as we call it. That's why I have shared with my students, and keep on sharing with my students, this tool called the Wheel of Life from Buddha, that explains the nature of perception, how we get messed up with it. Because even having a little breakthrough, so removing the problem created by the thoughts, by the needs, by entering into spiritual paths, ultimately created by the thinking, can be removed. This is a paradox, with another idea, with another thought that can provide a shift and a different perspective about it. And when the question starts to quiet down, then we can be more free. Then we can enjoy more things. There's no need to detach ourselves from things. There's no need to deprive ourselves from pleasure, from food, from sex, from making money. Because all these things are distinctions that usually, especially spiritual people do, that we make as right or wrong in our life. So dividing the process of the intellect, of trying to understand something in this multitude, labeling it and associating with it, to it, a good or bad concept connected to our system of beliefs, which ultimately is going to change the system of beliefs. You don't believe the same thing when you were a kid. You had different system of belief. Maybe you were thinking about your toys rather than all these complex questions. But now maybe you're involved into this. Maybe you're going to be old with the little niece, you know, as grandfather or grandmother or grandfather, and you're gonna say, fuck all this spiritual thing. Life is just what I'm having in front of me. I have a beautiful kid in front of me. I'm playing. I'm joyful. I have no need for something else. So this infinite search for a meaning, in my case, was creating loads of issues, and I think it's something common to everybody, because life keep on changing, because nothing stays the same. All those things, you know, we read and hear about this spiritual concept that personally I think should be all discarded. And we should come down to a more practical way of approaching ourselves. to ultimately live this mystery and trying to learn to handle it in the best way, to learn and improve ourselves here, but aware of the fact that at the same time it's a kind of an illusion because it constantly changes. While my ability of perceiving is always there. And the more we are eradicated in that ability of perceiving, which is something that we explore when we do meditation, for instance, because we separate ourselves from our mind and body, not in the sense that we go somewhere else, but in the sense that we create a distance from it and we see all the movements, that aliveness, that fact that we are alive, it's always there, while all the other things change. And ultimately, the more we eradicate there naturally, because it becomes like something that pulls you there, because the more you explore life, the more you see that it's so unstable that you're never going to be happy all the time. It's not about that, neither, no? But it's so unstable at some point, I think, if you're truly serious about getting to the end of sorrow or to the end of suffering, you will understand I cannot put all my eggs on these things out there. I have to find something else, which is part of it, which can be explored with meditative practices, which is something that the more we recognize, so it's right there, the more we unveil it, the more it becomes so predominant and powerful that we change the way we interact with this entertainment. Even people might notice it. People might tell you have become quite strange. You can say, no, it's a good thing. Because you realize that if you're more peaceful and you can handle more shit in a good way, it means, you are doing, you're doing good. You're improving. That's actually one of the signs we can really verify if we are improving in a path, if we have become more stable, if we have more clarity. It's not about talking about other things. Other things, there will be a personal experience, and it's already enough just to be peaceful and to detach from it, to understand practically that there is no meaning. It's just about life. It's just about living. It's embracing whatever it is there, without creating resistance to it. And as I said, life is not pleasant all the time. And trying to learn from it and have that awareness that it's not going to last forever, this thing. This issue is not going to last forever. This wife is not going to last forever. This business is not going to last forever. Me, I'm not going to last forever. So what's the biggest thing that I can discover? And through meditation and inner work, we can do that personal exploration to even come to a point of not being afraid to die, realizing that there is a fixed something in ourselves, not really defined in our mind and our body, that is greater than ourselves. And there I should end talking, because we enter into a space where, first of all, it has to be our experience of it, but it's a possibility of evolution and of exploration and of evolving and improving ourselves towards perfection. And I do believe in that only because it's a practical thing that in my experience is possible to do. And I'm nobody, I'm just a normal human being, and the more I aging, even though I feel super young, if I can use this expression, the more I've been peeling things, layers of roles, identities, and trying to be right or prove yourself to be right. It's better to leave things, and leave all those things to get to the essence. And that is for me the most important thing that we can do as human beings. It's a practical thing, because you might say, oh, this is a nice story, we can get entertained into this, but what's the purpose of it? Well, it's having a better life and being more spontaneous and open and free from your mind movements, free from things going your way or the other way, creating a pleasant ecosystem inside yourself to explore this journey as long as you are here, and then we go, and then we see. But we see not with beliefs. The more we have a stable natural relaxed attention on what it is real in ourselves, the more we can, I believe, we can even cross that journey, bringing that awareness. Because it's like when we are fearful, when we are angry, things get confused, we lose the ability of being open. But I believe that if somebody has done a good meditative work, is not afraid to die. It's actually looking forward to it, because it could be a very nice moment where we are detached from this, and maybe we can come back to a natural state, little bit higher, dimension-wise, if I can use these words, that this human incarnation, which is quite interesting, because we have the possibility of using our thought also to investigate bigger human possibilities, not just to being trapped by our conditioning, thoughts, obsessive behaviors, compulsive reactions. We can also use it to grow, things that animals don't have, because they cannot reflect on things. They are more moved by the compulsiveness that are trapped into lots of suffering. But we do have this possibility, and this possibility is not just for the end game. It's for this game, because the more control I have, the more awareness and control I have about me. And when I mean me, I mean this unity of things, of thinking and body, not really me, but what I came with on this life. The more I can, handle other things outside, because if I can handle more my inner processes, it means that I can respond better to other outside things. If I come to a point that I can relax to that extent of not looking for further meanings, then everything can become meaningful. And we can respect and we can enjoy the beauty of silence, of spaces like this, of people, and we become more inclusive. We include more things rather than just ourselves.